Hey guys, Chief Rudy here, and this is the behind the scenes of Dark Knight's Part 1, Moonlight. And in this video I'm going to show you guys what I did in this song and how I did it. So first off, this song is at 122 BPM as of all of the Dark Knights. They all are at 122 BPM. That's really just a tempo I like. I use this tempo a lot in stuff I've been working on. So first off, let's start with the percussion here. Just pretty simple, kick with the snare, kick a sidechain to the crash, and then some bass down here. Let's take a look at this. That's just the sub bass I had there, and that is making the chords with some of these other sounds later in here. But for now, there's no chords going on, it's just the bass. And then I have this little sound in here that kind of makes stuff interesting, adds in an ambience. So this one I'm actually going to go into. So let's take a look at this. So this is the preset distant, and it's pretty simple. Not a whole lot is going on in here. So let's take a look at operator 1. So it's going through this kind of sine wave, distorted sine wave here, and nothing else is really going on. There is a dampening effect, but that's not too much of a big deal. Here's the OSC. Let's go through all these. So the dampening is going through the key, but for modulation, volume, there's a little bit going on with this volume clip. As you can see, this is kind of just to give it that resonance as it goes through all of these until it goes silent. For mod, nothing. Pitch, there is a little pitch envelope towards the end. You can kind of even hear that once it gets into the loop. But that's pretty much all for operator 1. None of the other operators were used, so it's just the first operator going through the effects to the output. So with the effects, it has 5 unison voices, and pretty much just these are all the settings for effects. So the volume is up all the way there. We got it on normal, and this is for the delay instead of palm, and then inversion, and then normal. Okay, so this effect is on positive 100%, where this one is on negative like 30-ish, and that's going through the operator 2. Which is not really being used, it's kind of just used as the effect. So if we cut out operator 1, we just kind of get that reverb through operator 2. As you can still hear it, it's put up about half an octave, because so let's see, 1 octave would be 2, the next octave would be 8, so it's 6 for each octave. So this one would be half an octave up. So we put back in operator 1, and we get the full synth. So that's pretty much what's going on in the citrus patch. Now, on to track 20, I did some stuff to it, where I put on a chorus with 0 depth, because the depth really distorts it. So I wanted it to be pretty clean still, but still have the chorus, so I took out the depth. I put on a delay bank, and a chorus, a second chorus with the same settings, depth all the way down, a limiters for side chaining, and then a stereo enhancer to boost the volume. I didn't go through any EQ because, as you can tell, there already was EQ right here, taking out lows and some mids and keeping the highs where they are. So I used this sound in the entire trilogy of Dark Knights, just different ways, like in each song. So I brought that back in here for part 1. Now the main lead here. So this lead was actually a combination of synths, as you can see right here. There's 3 synths. I put them all in one pattern this time just because it was easier. Normally I would like to split up my synths between different patterns, like on the playlist, but I put it all in one this time. And there's a little pad sound here. Oh yeah, I forgot the solo. Let's solve that. So this pad was just a basic string setting preset from Citrus. I didn't really do anything to it. It's just kind of kept it in. It has a little volume envelope. Does it have any? Probably no modulation. Operator 2. It does have another volume envelope, but it is not on. You could put it on and it would fade out, but I didn't want that. This probably was on, and I probably just took it off because I didn't want it to be fading out. And that's not too much is happening in here. There's something in the filter 1. Volume, cut, volume. See, I don't see. Oh, here it is. It's the wave shape, and then the cut is going through mode X and volume. And on the effects, there's a volume envelope for the effects and mode Y. And it's on Pong for delay, which you can kind of hear at the end there. And this is on to track 19, where all I did was just some sidechains. Just a sidechain here and a sidechain here. So that is the first synth of the layer, and here's the second one. So this is kind of more that choir sound. And let me disable the EQ. So this was the choir. This was another preset I got. And operator 1, it is you're going through volume, key M, and dampening effect. And the pitch is to 1.0 instead of 2.0 because it sounds a lot better. And here for operator 2, we have a volume envelope going through the exact same stuff as was operator 1, just the oscillator is different, the wave is different. And up to operator 4, let's see, we have volume to key M, making the bassier notes a lot larger down here. And then we have damp again with the same shape here. So it'd be damper up here and less down here. And I think I skipped operator 3, so let's look into that. Operator 3 is doing the exact opposite here as was operator 4. And the reason they're probably doing that, I can guess, is because the different waves. So each one, the highs and the lows have different waves for their key M. And then it's running through a filter 1 with a volume envelope and a wave shape. And a lot of filter 1 is going through all those different oscillators, and then going through the effects tab where it's getting some delay and some reverb back to the output. And this is on track 18, where I put on a chorus again with no depth. Because I like the chorus effect without the depth. It kind of makes stuff more ambient without giving it too much mass. And then another sidechain here, a stereo enhancer to boost the volume, another limiter for sidechaining, stereo enhancer to boost the volume again, then a reverb, and then this final EQ is a fur filter. And this is how it fades in the song. And let's disable that for now. And then the final, this is the main part of the synth, of the layer. So this is what's doing most of the heavy lifting. And it actually is an autogun patch. Which, I've been using autogun a lot lately for ambient stuff and leads, because you can find a bunch of good synths in here. And I've never found the same synth twice, so you just keep flipping through these. And again, I went back and it didn't even load up the same synth, but I have it saved right here. So So once you flip through these, I've never found the same synth twice again. So just once you find one, you probably should save it. Like I saved in the lead for Apocalypse here and Dark Nights, because the lead for Apocalypse was a autogun patch. Now let's put this to track 16, where I use all 9 effects. Again, a chorus with no depth, and the reason I did that again is so it doesn't sound all like this. It's a bit cleaner. I put on 2 choruses with no depth actually, and a delay. And this delay actually isn't doing anything because none of these are on. So that was just how I disabled it. So I was experimenting with a delay, but I ended up taking it off. And here I have a limiter for a sidechain, stereo enhancer to boost the volume, another limiter for sidechaining, another stereo enhancer to boost the volume, another limiter, and another limiter. This one is doing some compression, and this one is doing some sidechaining. And so cell is on, but it's not really peaking too much, so it's not too much of a big deal. Okay, so that was the lead there, and that was a layer. So I layered it with all the sounds to give it some more ambience there. Here I have noise rising up. Then there's some reverb on it, and then an EQ here, and some limiters for sidechaining. And then here I have a bunch of envelopes down here, all fading in with filters and volumes and stuff to bring everything in. And then the beat drops here. So I'll go into the drums at the very end. For now, let's get into this lead. And this is the same exact sound as before, the Sensation 4 in Autogun. On track 22 this time, where I put on a chorus with no depth, limiter for sidechaining, and a stereo enhancer to boost the volume. And I ran it through a reverb return and a delay return. And basically it's just going directly to this track through a reverb and then through a delay. And the reason I have limiters on here is for sidechaining, because I did want to even sidechain them to the reverb and delay just so it didn't get too cluttery and it really gets the kick defined. So then over here, when it really kind of hits the hardest, as everything is in full force, so I introduced this ambient element. And this is again another citrus. It's the pipe organ preset. And it kind of sounds like an organ, but not too much. Like kind of, not too much though. So basically I'm not going to go through this whole thing because it is just a preset, and as you can tell a lot of panning and effects is going on mainly through just filter 1, and all the oscillators are in use. And this is just a preset, so you could find it in the library here. But to track 23, this is what I did to it. So I put on a stereo enhancer for volume, reverb, and an EQ to remove some highs. And then let's go into the drums now, and then I'll get into this bass at the very end. So for mixing this kick, it wasn't too hard. Like, I just put on this limiter, and as you can tell, it is the snare's sidechain to the kick. And the reason I did that is so there's room for the snare when the kick plays. And then just a pretty simple EQ, boosting the lows there. And the snare has some reverb and this EQ. And then the hi-hats have some reverb, some delay, and a limiter for sidechaining with the kick. And as you can tell, there was a little bit of delay on the kick. And that delay is actually from the master. There's a little bit of delay I put on the master to kind of fill stuff up a little bit more when it came to mastering. I did that. So I'll get into mastering at the very end after I do this bass, which is pretty simple. So basically, this is just a FM synth I got from one of Seamless's tutorials. Let's go down. Down one more octave. So, most of you probably already know what FM synth is, but I'll go over it very briefly. And again, I didn't make this. This was Seamless that made this, technically, because I got it from his tutorial. And it is just operator 1 going through some other operators. These other operators are gathering the harmonics, and through the mode X it is going, so this is the filter with mode X, and it's going over here so you can move it, and it's doing that with all these operators with different waves and then different values, and they're going through different operators to make the harmonics that you hear. And this all goes through the output. So if you get into every little detail, it would get pretty complicated, but the idea of it isn't too complicated. So to track 26, I put on a limiter for sidechaining, a Vocodex here. And this Vocodex isn't doing a whole lot. It's basically just like my run-of-the-mill Vocodex, just boost wetness, basically just boost like these three things: the wetness, the compression, and the band values, all the way, and you get a nice thick sound. And then some more limiters for compression, a little bit of wave shaping to give it some harshness as compared to this. Another limiter for sidechaining, a delay bank here, and then this EQ is fading in. So I didn't use this bass too much here. I used this exact same bass a lot more in Dark Nights Part 2, and I'll get into more of it then. So that's pretty much the song here, kind of the mixing and music here. And then for the master, I have a lot of different stuff going on. So this compression, the limiter is completely off, so it's not doing any limiting at all. It's just doing some compression. And then I ran it through a Maximus here. And then these are the bands here. So basically Maximus is a multi-band compressor, and the reason I use a limiter for compressing, the Fruity limiter, and the Maximus is because this one's not multi-band. I just kind of do this to cut off some rough edges here and there with a light, very soft compressor. And this is what's doing most of the heavy lifting, is this multi-band compressor in here. Then I have an EQ removing some of these lows. The reason I even am doing this at all is to make more room, because these low frequencies just take up so much room on a master. The reason I took those out is so I could boost the volume just a tad more, and because there's not many frequencies at this range at all for this whole song. Like as you can tell, there's still some, but it's not making too much of a big deal there. And then I ran it through a second Maximus for more multi-band compression, and then a delay bank. And the reason I have this delay bank, again, is mainly just to make it sound a little bit bigger, because there's not a whole lot going on here. There's some ambience, but there's really not like a driving sound or a thing underneath everything. There is this bass, and this is a pretty good foundation, but there's not like a gritty bass or a foundation that like you hear. The sub bass is more of a foundation that you feel. So that's why I added on the delay, just to kind of fill everything up. Then here I do have a little bit of EQ, boosting some highs and mids and cutting a little bit of lows, just to really define what I wanted a little bit more, because I'm not doing that in here. It was just easier for me to get these three knobs in the order I wanted rather than in here, because these can move so freely. Sometimes it's easier just to move these up if you know that's the frequency you want. So that's pretty much it for Dark Nights Part 1 Moonlight for the behind the scenes. I hope you guys have enjoyed it, and if you have any further questions on this song, just leave a comment below and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. So that's pretty much it for this video, and I'll see you guys in next week's video. Until then, bye.